weird, but we'll roll with it. I mean, I don't think the YouTube app stretched it out because like here is where I see the data, but it should be up here. Whatever. We'll see how it goes. Let's go to all messages so I can see everybody. And as long as everybody can see me and hear me, I'll just deal with it looking weird and being real zoomed up on me for some reason. Maybe it's my phone. Let me see if I can fix it. Weird. Anyhow, things have been weird. I scheduled a post, a YouTube video upload for this Saturday, and it decided that this upcoming Saturday meant like day before yesterday, 8 o'clock at night. And I checked my settings. It wasn't me, it was them. I was like, what the hell? Hey everybody, rolling in. Let's make some tea and then we'll get started. I'm just going to make some of that Nepali silver needle because that's a good old comfort tea. I had a really stressful day yesterday, and it was like a 10-hour online work day. Oh, spilled a bunch. Wrong lid. That's how my brain's functioning today, folks. Oh, no, I mean, like, I'm not saying I look weird. I'm saying my camera, the way the screen is showing to me, looks weird, but thank you. Some people definitely will think that I look weird. Get that water going, make some tea, and as a reminder for people who are just rolling in, two things. I start answering questions after I've had my first sip of tea. It gives people time to show up, time for me to settle in. And if you're a member or you want to become a member, I have the Sundays member-only Q&A as well. It's just a little less chaotic, and I'm less likely to miss member questions because, you know, there's so much stuff that rolls along the screen. Sometimes it can be hard for me to see everything. But yeah, and normally I'd say there's a new video, don't miss it. Go check it out if you remember, but it already got uploaded. And it got uploaded at night, so nobody saw it. So if you haven't watched my most recent video, go check that out. It's all it's on making like this really nice infusion I like, a cold brew infusion with like chamomile and raspberry leaf for like that time of the month, cramps, things like that. But yeah, I've just been kind of existing and doing lots of online work, and it's my favorite, or my least favorite. My least favorite type of work is staring at a computer for 10 hours a day, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. It was crazy. I think I was like on my computer by like 9 a.m. yesterday, and then I finally stopped looking around like, I don't know, 10. It was a long day of getting things updated in the shop and trying to like solve problems and things like that, you know. So, but it's just not my preference. And then when I get off of here, I get to do stuff for the IRS, not for them, but so they don't come after me. So, you know, it's more online work and stuff like that, you know. Um, and then, yeah, just kind of existing. Just kind of existing. I haven't done anything new with the garden at all. But I don't know. I kind of feel like this year I told myself I'm only going to grow food that I know that I'm going to eat. And I'm only going to grow food that is worth my time in exchange, meaning like if somebody locally is also doing that on a big scale, I would rather just give them a little bit of money for that food because that money was also my time, and my time is money, not in like a creepy consumer way, you know what I mean, like, but like I've just been kind of trying to think about that and take pressure off of my body that way. And I think it's been a good shift for me mentally, because I don't feel like I'm super behind. I don't feel like I've failed at anything. I don't feel weird in that way that I normally do. And it looks like I see, hopefully my other admin shows up pretty soon to deal with some of these bots. I assume most of them are bots. Like, who's got time? I mean, all day long to go around and and like spam people like with random political shit. Like, gosh, if you have that much time in your day, I'm like almost envious. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, so we'll get those bots taken care of, and that's what's good about the Sunday members only Q&A. Those people aren't there, like the bots aren't there because it's private, right? But okay, all right. So that's basically your timer for me. Starting to get ready to answer questions. When that goes off, I'll have my first cup of tea and everything. Yeah, I don't know. With the garden stuff, I've put a lot of pressure on myself over the years, and it's like all like food related trauma, like resource related trauma, like where I feel like I have to like grow enough for everybody that I care about, even if I never even hit that goal, or they don't even know that goal exists, right? And so I've been trying to walk it back, but also I have less to do in the garden this year because last year I built up the beds, right? And so it's not too bad, you know. But yeah, so I'm just gonna put this like boundary out there. This isn't a place to talk politics. This isn't a place to feel like we need to do this or do that or be involved. All that stuff is going to get instantly hidden. And it's not because nobody cares. It's because how much of your brainwave do you need to like feed into it constantly? If it needs to be in every area of your existence, you have a problem. I'm just gonna say it. Regardless of what side you're on or what you believe in, it's not like undermining anything, but like if your life is constantly influenced by an event that you can't really help or stop, and like you have to bring it up everywhere in every situation, I feel bad because you're being eaten alive. And I don't say it as a place of judgment because I've lived that, right? It will eat you. It is eating you. It's stopping you. It's consuming you. You're not making a difference, but it's making a difference in you and how your ability to go about your life and tend for yourself and your family and your things you enjoy and things like that. You know, it's just so, yeah, that's a big hard boundary I have, but also I want everybody here to feel welcome. And politics don't let people feel welcome, especially not in our current reality. So yeah, but I don't know. So I've just been kind of existing like I normally have. And trying to get back on the horse a little bit for making videos and paying attention to things and just kind of I'm ready for spring, but also I don't know, I feel like I didn't get much of a winter here even though we did. Like I don't feel like I got to hibernate very much, you know. um, so I'm just kind of like I'm ready for spring, but also like someone's dragging me out of my cave. So I'm taking it a little bit slow, and the weather doesn't know what it wants to do either. So, you know, sometimes it's like really sunny out, and then like we get crazy amounts of like we wake up to like some snow and some frost, and then it's just it's just it's all over the place, you know. Um, but yeah, so tea is ready. Let's see how she tastes. What's funny is sometimes I feel like because I haven't really accomplished much or been doing anything besides trying to exist and keep all that existence together, I'm like, I don't have anything to talk about. It's all just the same shit every day. But I don't know. That's not a bad thing. I think sometimes people who have like a big presence online, people assume we have some big like fantastical, is that a word, or romantic type life. We're always like, and I'm like, nah, I just stared at a fucking computer yesterday and had like garbage TV on in the background. You know, like there was nothing great going on, you know. One of my favorite teas, and it's a shame because once I'm out, I'm not going to be able to afford to replace it on any meaningful level to use it like a daily drinker, right? Okay, so if you have a question for me, say question, and then I'll do my best to answer it. We'll see what happens today from my brain. Question and help. What do you know about James Cunningham disease? Leads to PML. Don't know anything about it. I don't know what PML stands for either. So sometimes I'll know the name of a disease or a condition and then I can jump into that. But sometimes it's better to tell me, like, because I just give you this label of this disease, but really it's more about what it's causing in your body. Right. And so if you're ever trying to look for an herb for a condition you're living with and you can't find anything about it, instead of looking into the name of the disease or the condition you're living with for herbs, start looking into like the ramifications it has on your body. right? Because then you can kind of look at symptoms over just a diagnosis name, right? Question, what would you do or suggest for Meniere's disease? I've been struggling with since 2013. Why do I know that one but don't know it? Is that something to do with cortisol? I think I'm just batting out. 2 questions in a row. I'm like, I don't know. Question, what is your favorite form of vitamin E? My test results came back very low. I like the brand called Purely E. It's like the word purely dash E. It's super clean, and it's from like natural sources. But you could also start eating lots of like soaked and then re-dried like nuts, like walnuts and almonds and things like that. But check out the Weston Price Foundation's recommendations on how to soak nuts, because they're full of lots of anti-nutrients, and every culture around the world for the most part would do something to process them before eating, and typically that involves soaking in some way. I love it. It makes them so crunchier. It makes them really nice. Um, there's a lot of naturally occurring vitamin E there. Um, Okay, so question. I have degenerative arthritis in my lower back and hips. What would you suggest for pain? I can't do pain meds at all. It makes me so sick. Have you tried LDN, low dose naltrexone? It's kind of like, it's not really a pain med, but it makes your body create your own pain meds. So you have opioid receptors in your brain because your body creates opioids to help with pain. And LDN is really fantastic for reducing pain levels naturally by encouraging your brain to release like dopamine and opioids and things like that. But also look into like in regards to like supporting your degenerative discs, look into like high dose vitamin C alongside tons of like grass fed gelatin, right? So your body can start getting the vitamin C and glutathione that it needs to produce collagen to help with bone, right? And then also make sure, I read a study a while back about the link between degenerative disc disease and low intake of vitamin K1 and K2. Everyone's low in it these days. We either don't eat enough well-cooked leafy greens for the K1, or we don't eat enough healthy animal fats, or the animals aren't kept on pasture, so they don't have a lot of K2 in like their like butter and milk and cheese and things like that. So those are things that I would look into. And then of course you could start doing comfrey compresses topically for that too. Um, Question, my mom, 80-year-old, having a hard time absorbing iron, always has. She keeps showing blood in her poo for low energy. Of course, talk to her doctor, especially if she's got GI bleeds going on. But 2 things that like can happen when you're not absorbing low iron. Has she ever had her copper levels tested? You need copper to shuttle iron into your cells, and often when people are like anemic, they're actually like copper deficient. There's a bunch of work done on that. But also you need vitamin C to shuttle iron as well. It's like when people have the Celtic gene mutation where they get a dangerous amount of iron in their body, they can't eat vitamin C, which is like a horrible like loop because it increases iron absorption. So I would look into copper rich foods, vitamin C rich foods, anything like that. Getting your copper levels tested would probably be a pretty good idea. um, Question, help for stomach movement, diagnosed with gastroparesis, no issue with constipation. I would look into magnesium. You might have to cycle through different types to see what happens. So there's something happening with your parasympathetic nervous system that's not kickstarting your digestion, right? So normally you could say something like cascara bark, but laxative type stuff doesn't typically work for that necessarily, but it might be helpful. But I would just start playing around with like repairing your parasympathetic nervous system and supporting it by cycling through different types of magnesium, and start doing actual physical exercises that strengthen that parasympathetic nervous system connection to your gut. Could probably go a long way. Okay, question. How can I learn better about cold versus hot brews? Um, when it comes to like, this is the best way. I don't really have like a specific resource for you to learn, but I can give you like a tip that will make you an expert at it right away, right? If it smells really strong, like a chamomile, like if it has a really strong scent like peppermint or anything like lavender, any of these things that you think of it has a strong smell, it either needs to have a cold brew only or a very short 5-10 minute steep like a normal tea, because it has high volatile compounds, right? Meaning it has a lot of phenols and terpenes and all these chemicals that make up essential oils. right? And I do air quotes because essential oils isn't a really thing. It's just a marketing gimmick for 200 plus chemicals in a plant out of 1200 plus possibilities, right? So if it smells strong, you want to do a slow cold brew to not over extract it, or you want to do a quick normal cup of tea brew so you don't over extract it. If the tea doesn't, or if the herb doesn't have a lot of scent, for the most part, that means like it has no smell. Like it has a smell but no scent, like nettle, right? Dandelion root, that type of stuff. That is where you can probably get into the hot brew because you know that you are not over extracting the VOC. So, really, those two tips are all you really need to know. If it smells strong, cold, and a small amount of hot brew. If it smells not at all, if it doesn't have like a fragrance to it, then that's when you're going to use your long infusion with heat. Right. And so that's kind of an easy way to balance it out. Question: thoughts about groups who believe supplementing vitamin D3 is toxic? I mean, I'm not really on either side of the fence, right? So, usually, if you have a vitamin D3 deficiency, you actually have not enough cholesterol in your body, or you don't have any magnesium in your body, or you are a mole person and spending zero time in the sun, or cover yourself with sunscreen all the time. So, you literally, so like, vitamin D isn't a vitamin, it's a hormone that's synthesized out of your cholesterol, right? And the second that the sun hits your skin, it's literally waiting there. This type of cholesterol is literally waiting there to be turned into vitamin D3. And so, if you don't do enough of any of those things, you don't have magnesium, which is a cofactor, you might end up being deficient in D3. But let's say you're just having an issue getting your levels up, but you've already checked your magnesium and you're spending at least 30 minutes a day in the sun and nothing's working, then you could start working on vitamin D3. But I do think it's problematic, not necessarily toxic, but could be problematic if you were throwing a ton of vitamin D at your system and it's not moving the needle, right? And so looking at cofactors, I think, is important. Looking, like, having a reality check with yourself if you're getting any sort of like natural sun exposure, like without any chemicals slathered all over your bodies to block it, is something to look at. But yeah, you can hurt yourself if you take too much vitamin D3. A lot of the fat soluble vitamins like I should say A, D, E, these can become toxic if taken in a large amount because they're not water soluble. Water soluble vitamins like B12, vitamin C, typically, well, totally, you just piss out anything that you're not using. But with fat soluble vitamins, they store up in your body and they become toxic if you have too much. Question: suggestion for arthritis. It really depends on the type of arthritis that you have. Um, if it's like osteo, like wear and tear, I'm going to go back to like the high dose vitamin C gelatin because you need to be rebuilding collagen production, right? Because your joints and everything have, people think of collagen for the skin and youth and stuff, but it's actually what's holding your entire meat sack together. And including your joints and your cartilage. You need collagen to do repairs, right? And when you're out of it, you start grinding bone. Now, if it's RA, like rheumatoid, if it's linked to autoimmune, you can still do that kind of stuff because that wear and tear is happening, right? But you need something to modulate your immune system, meaning calm it down. And so you have to be really careful because a lot of herbs just stimulate the immune system versus modulate it, and they can make it worse. So you're going to want to look at modulators, like something like, let's say, turkey tail mushroom, maybe even sometimes something like astragalus. Those are more like if your immune system is like freaking out, they'll calm it down. If it's too low, they'll raise it up, versus just raising it, right? So those are things that I would look into. Question: what is the cause of ganglion cysts? I have an alien besides castor oil packs. Aren't the ganglion, isn't that, I don't know the specific term. Isn't that like, is that the one where you have like a twin growing in you? I don't think so. I don't think so, but my brain said it was. Especially because you said you have an alien in you. Um, A normal cyst is typically there's different reasons, but a normal cyst can be your own like tissue building up and multiplying weirdly, except for it's not cancerous. It can be fluid filled. It can be like you got an ingrown hair deep in and then it's like pus filled. It can be from all kinds of stuff. But usually you just want to look at like the area. Like, are you doing something like if you're getting them repeatedly? Are you shaving in that area? Are you using something that's blocking pores in that area? Um, do you need to start doing like more exfoliation of the area? Do you need to start doing like castor oil packs to the area? You really have to like look at your own actions and see if there's anything that might be unintentionally contributing to it, right? Um, no, they usually show up on the hands, wrists, and they used to hit them with the Bible. Mine were away one morning. That's rough. Um, yeah, it really depends on what the underlying cause is, and you could probably research where people suspect one thing to be the underlying cause, and then you could try to treat it that way, right? Question: can I just cold brew everything? You could, but some stuff like nettle, for example, because we're after the minerals, and I should have clarified that before. With a cold brew, you're not usually after the VOCs, the volatile compounds. You're more after like the minerals, or like something with mallow. You're after like the slimy mucinogenic properties, right? And usually with those, mallows are necessarily not really a great example because you can use hot or cold with that, but like nettle's a really good example. You're after the minerals with that, and so you need to break down the cellular structure of the plant and use the hot water like a poultice to pull it out. So while you could do a cold brew, it wouldn't be as efficient or as nutritious when you're done pulling it out, if that makes sense. um Question: I have 20% left in my benzo taper. I have Amanita Dreamer's tincture for 2 years. I have been too intimidated to use it. Do you have advice for starting this regime for the first time? No, because I never personally used it myself, but I wish I had. But I can tell you that I know it feels scary. I know it feels scary to jump off, and I can give you advice for anybody who's going to use a psychedelic. Intention is important, setting is important. Make sure it's on a day or days that you don't have anybody that needs your attention, where you can turn your phone off. And if you're really nervous, you could have like a really trusted friend there with you, but kind of give them a rundown. Like, nobody wants to be on mushrooms and have somebody be like, "Are you okay? Are you still okay?" Right? Like, maybe have them like watch a few things about how to like coach a person, and just like be doing like drawings, or coloring, or whatever art thing you like to do with them, or like watching funny cartoons that you like, or nothing that's going to make you have a serious thought about anything. Right? And have them kind of be your trip guide person. It depends. You also don't have to go like all in. You also don't have to like melt your face off, right? Like, some people do microdose, some people do a heroic dose. It just depends, right? um Question. Oh, I lost it. Question. When making a linden infusion, are you heating the first infusion on the second day or adding fresh water? Oh, Meniere's is an inner ear disease. Thank you. I knew it sounded familiar, but it's some. But so with the linden, you usually want to do hot water first, and then the second one, if you're doing the second infusion for the mucilagenic properties. Some people like to boil it, but I have switched to using a cold brew the second time around because I'm not necessarily trying to destroy those properties. I found that the hot brew didn't really get what people were after. I found that it felt slimier when I did the cold brew the second time around, but I used warm for the first and then cold for the second if you do it that way. Um, so, I don't know about that question. I like the glass jar. Let's see. Anything for pinched nerve on the spine? A lot of that just comes down to physical therapy. Right. You kind of have to release the pinching. There's nothing else that you could do, and I'm sure that you've tried all that stuff. But don't be afraid to look elsewhere for physical therapy. Don't be afraid to look at other YouTube videos of how people are relieving a pinched nerve. Don't be afraid to see a different chiropractor or a different doctor. I know that these things cost money, but the YouTube type stuff doesn't. I found finally. It's not really pinched nerve related, but I'd been having hip issues for a long time, and I couldn't really. I mean, I twisted my hip once walking down a hill, stepped on a rock wrong, and that was it. like I just twisted this muscle here, right? And I had been going to a chiropractor and she wasn't really doing anything. It was like literally a 2-minute appointment. Okay, see you in 2 weeks. It didn't help with anything, right? And then I found another chiropractor and he actually helped quite a bit more than she did. Brought me a lot of relief. He really did. But not completely. It would always kind of like ache back in. And then I discovered my carnitine wasting deficiency, which, by the way, one of the symptoms for that, and it's not super common, so nobody listening probably has this, but one of the deficiency symptoms of carnitine is your big muscles start to hurt because carnitine is primarily stored in your muscles, and without it, your muscles start wasting away. So nothing was helping. And then once I figured that out, I found a different physical therapy video online where the guy's like, you actually have to rebuild the muscle, which worked for me. And now I'm saying I'm probably painless about 90% of the time now after a year and a half of like horrendous pain. A part of that was fixing my deficiency, but also like finally finding a physical therapy video that worked for me. And you know, so I'm just saying, like, look around. Don't feel like just because you've tried that it isn't the answer still, if that makes sense. Um, Question: Meniere's disease is the inner ear that is potentially severe and incapable episodes of vertigo, tinnitus, hearing loss. Oh yeah, that's why I've heard of it before, because it gets misdiagnosed a lot. That's why my brain was like, oh yeah. So one thing that B12 deficiency gets misdiagnosed a lot as Meniere's disease because B12 has such a critical role in your whole inner ear area, right? And so there were a lot of people that were discovering they had a severe B12 deficiency, which makes you have vertigo, dizziness, all that type of stuff that goes along with it. Now, it may not always be that, but whenever there's anything inner ear going on, whenever you're dizzy or vertigo or have balance issues, I highly suspect a B12 deficiency. And if you rule out B12, make sure you rule out B1 too, which is a thiamine deficiency. But remember, you need to get these tests for it before you start supplementing for it, because supplementing for it will skew the results, and doctors often have literally no idea about B12 deficiency. They'll even look at deficiency on a lab and be like, oh, it's not crucial. It's so terrifying. There's a book called Could It Be B12? You can get it on Amazon on used. It's like $4 or $5. Totally worth buying and reading. What is my favorite vitamin C supplement? I like using anything from Quali-C, Quali-C. Anything that has Quali-C in it. It's just a high grade ascorbic acid. It's not made like from moldy sources or anything like that. I don't fall for the Whole Foods vitamin C's. They often fall short. And by the way, I know that vitamin C has an empty, like when you use ascorbic acid, it's missing the copper link. Eat more copper rich food, right? Your body's not stupid. It still knows how to use it. And as a person who lives with genetic mutations that prevent me from uptaking ascorbic acid through my SVCT pathways, I learned a lot about vitamin C, a lot more than the average person, right? And I learned that the Whole Foods vitamin C movement, like, they started demonizing ascorbic acid because their sales were in the tank. And I'm not saying that, like, oranges aren't great. Like, I eat oranges pretty often, but I was also dying from scurvy personally because my body wasn't absorbing it. And also, liposomal isn't real. It's vitamin C, but it doesn't surpass your SVCT pathways. And I know that because I was dying of scurvy, right? The only thing that's helped me is taking like huge doses of vitamin C, like from ascorbic acid. And what that does is, like, I'm putting so much pressure on my mutation pathways that it has to uptake it. It has to uptake some of it. Like, I'm flooding my system, right? Question: What's your thought on parasite cleanses with iver? Oh, I said it. I almost said it. Animal met. I mean, if you you're in South Africa, you say, so you probably have more of a parasite pressure. I don't think it's a bad thing, but sometimes it's not a cure all be all. And if you have a specific parasite you're concerned about, you need to make sure that that particular treatment you're talking about is actually like indicated with that medicine, right? So the thing is, people misunderstand like parasites, right? They think that like one shoe fits all, but they all have like little armor around them, right? They have like biofilms and stuff like that that are hard to penetrate, but they can also get like angry. So like if you're using something and not understanding their life cycle, those are two deadly mistakes that people can make. If you're using something that that isn't going to kill them but just agitate them, it could push them further into your system or out of your digestive tract and somewhere like devastating like your lungs or your liver or things like that. And you might not be doing anything besides killing your good gut bacteria, which could actually allow them to grow further. And so I'm not saying that those things aren't impactful, but it's really powerful to learn if you have a parasite, what it is, or at least if you're in a bioregion that is known for specific parasites and those are the ones that you are likely to pick up. Look at what they're actually using to combat those and see if what you're using is similar or oft are used in different cases, if that makes sense. You know, so it's just something to consider. Most people in America, and I know you're not in America, but most people in America listening to this, women have just been told their bodies are dirty, so it's really easy to make you detox and think that you're full of worms and filthy. You know, and then they'll go and get like enemas, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, I saw the worms come out." I'm like, "No, honey, that was your intestinal lining, and now you're gonna have leaky gut syndrome because you like destroyed your mucosal lining, right?" Like it's crazy, it's sad, and it takes away from the people who actually end up with a parasite, right? Okay, so thank you so much for becoming a member, Misty, and thank you so much for the, I think it was a cute little raccoon, and for the super. Sorry, I miss those sometimes. My brain is like, you can't stop. Question. Let's see. Are the essential oils in medical marijuana dangerous? No, unless they're added. Right. Okay. So I know people get confused about this. So it's not that the essential oils, first of all, I hate that. It's a marketing term. The VOCs, they're called volatile organic compounds. So the VOCs in plants, they are not necessarily dangerous depending on the plant. Some have nasty ones like theogen and wormwood can fuck you up, right? Some of them have nasty VOCs that can hurt you, right? In their naturally occurring amount. The problem is, let's take marijuana for example. I have other issues with marijuana, but let's just talk about the VOCs. The problem is when it's naturally occurring, it's literally parts per million. That means it's one tiny molecule of this VOC for millions, right? But when you take upwards of 50 to 150 pounds of plant matter, depending on the plant you're using, and you use a distiller to extract these oils, and you end up with a teeny tiny bottle, every single drop that comes out of there, first of all, it's not balanced. It changes, it completely mutates. Oxidation, it's not a perfect mirror of what the plant was, right? One drop is typically equivalent to consuming 10 pounds of that herb at any given time. Meaning you'd have to drink like fucking 10 gallons of peppermint tea to equate one drop of essential oil. And so diluting it is delusional because you'd have to put one drop for every 10 gallon, but then it doesn't equal back out like it's a normal plant. So that's when it becomes problematic. However, one thing that I'm really hating seeing in the marijuana industry, and I don't even smoke weed, I haven't smoked weed in over a decade or more, is that they are now taking VOCs, like these guys will buy a fucking 55-gallon barrel of limonene, and they'll add that to their oils or their resins or your vape pen. They add it back, right? And it's not the same because it's not balanced anymore. And for anybody who's like, oh, what do you know? I'm the first person to write, like literally an industry first, about the dangers of essential oils. And most of my followers already know this, but if you're new to this, this is why. This is called Essentially Deadly, The Unspoken Dangers of Essential Oils. It's a book completely dedicated and research backed. Like everything I'm breaking down studies here. This isn't my opinion, right? It's researching the dangers of essential oils. And by the way, before you're like, there are hundreds and thousands of studies saying that they're beneficial. Have you looked into who funds those studies? It's the biggest corporations. There's two very big companies. There's two very big multi-billion-dollar essential oil corporations who fund all the studies that are telling you they're fantastic, right? Anyhow, question. Let's see. Let's see. I want to throw your book at Simply Earth. Yeah. Hello, I'm new here. I have been with Inflation versus, I don't know. Oh, candida symptoms. Oh, inflation, I see. Antibiotics. So you could try milk kefir if you're dealing with candida. Or also look into making your own homemade L-reuteri yogurt. Okay, question. April, hyaluronic acid shows as good for joint repair. It can be derived from plants. Any thoughts? Welcome. I don't know a whole lot about it. Um, I, I kind of, obviously, my rant I just went off about with essential oils, I'm a little hesitant with things that are like extracted from plants in such a concentrated manner. Like, I would do research on like what does your body need as a cofactor to use it? Right, like what synthesis is happening? Is your body making it? Is your body even able to absorb it? What could it deplete? What could it need to work? Right? Same goes for like single vitamins, like B12, for example. I have to take B12 shots because of a mutation I have. It just benefits me if I do, even though I eat a lot of meat. It's not pernicious anemia, it's something different. But I also have to make sure that I'm eating enough potassium and red meat to get the iron from it because B12 uses up potassium and iron. Right, and so nothing in nature exists singularly, period. And so I worry about like isolates if we're not doing the research on what's needed for it to fully like be used in our body. So that's, I don't have any experience using the hyaluronic acid though. Okay, question. What would you do for melanoma that has spread to the liver? That's rough. I'm glad it didn't go to your brain because it also likes to jump there sometimes. Um, if I was living with cancer again, like, because I had cancer when I was younger and pregnant with my daughter who's admitting now, I would lean heavily on LDN, low dose naltrexone. I would lean heavily on turkey tail mushroom. I mean, of course, you're going to need to talk to your doctor about all this, especially if you're already on treatments. But I wonder if supporting your liver, like getting all the PUFA oils out of your diet, which you don't need a doctor's permission to stop eating rancid seed oils. But if you start working with something like TUDCA, to like TU DCA, my brain. If you started working with something like that to support your liver function, like is your liver also a little bit fatty? Like what's it struggling with? Anything like that is going to be supportive for your body to get rid of those mutated cells and shift over. And remember that cancer is your body. A lot of people are going to try to tell you that it's an alien, it's a parasite, it's this or that, but really, somewhere along the line, your cells got damaged and they mutated, and that mutated cell replicated, and it replicated, and it spread, and it replicated, and it replicated, and it replicated. And I don't know, I just kind of feel like when we look at cancer as something as an invader instead of our own body, we're less sympathetic to our body, if that makes sense, and then we look to attack it versus support it. Right, and so that's just something, and there's studies that show that turkey tail mushroom, because it's an immune modulator, help our body see cancer. One of the reasons that cancer is able to spread and grow is because your body doesn't see it as an invader because it's you, it's your own cells, right? And so that's just, I don't know, that's kind of like a mind shift that helped me a lot when I was younger, like learning about what it actually is, and it helped me shut out a lot of noise too. Question, how do you make El Ruderai yogurt? Well, I mean, I can't, like, it's not that hard, really. There's tons of videos on it. Cultured for Life, I believe, is a good source on it, like, for videos. But basically, you buy yourself some El Ruderai capsules. I suggest the Super Smart brand instead of the one that they upsell. The one they upsell has a bunch of fillers and it takes a lot of time. I have had really good success with the El Ruderai Super Smart capsules. And then you're going to add that to some, like, pasteurized milk, and you're going to need a yogurt maker, and you're basically making yogurt at home like you would with any other culture, except for you're specifically using El Ruderai. They even have people talking about it they even have people talking about it with using like coconut milk and things like that for people who are lactose intolerant. But some people say, why not just buy the capsules and take those? Because for every bite of El Ruderai yogurt, there are billions and billions of like colonized fruiting units, right? See, if you'd have to take like bottles and bottles and bottles of these pills, and it's not even alive in the pill necessarily. You're actually wanting to grow it because El Ruderai can actually colonize your gut, which is really amazing. Okay. I found I could make the El Ruderai in my cooler with the seed mat in there. I just set the temperature and leave it there for 36 hours. That's really cool if you can get it up hot enough. Yeah, I'm glad that I kept it. But like years and years ago, when I was working in my apothecary, I bought myself like an actual like incubator for testing creams and stuff. Like I wanted to make sure that I was using enough of a preservative, right, in my creams. And I maybe used it like 20 times and it just sat there for years gathering dust. And when I got back into making yogurt, I was like, wait, I have an actual like like incubator, like a science level incubator. And so I brought it up from the apothecary into the kitchen, and now I use it because it's like hyper accurate to temperature stuff, and it's worked really well for me. And so, but yeah, you can use a cooler with a seating mat for most yogurt. So if you can dial it in for L-Reuteri, that's really cool. But you can also like buy yogurt making machines. I've used the Instant Pot. It's a little harder though because it won't run for the long time you need for the L-Reuteri, right? Because the reason that L-Reuteri goes a lot longer is because they've shown that once you get past the 24-hour mark and up to the 36-hour mark, it like quadruples the amount of beneficial bacteria, right? So you go a little longer. But anyhow, I had stage 3B melanoma 20 years ago. They cut off all they could. I didn't avoid the sun, added SCAC blend, cut out all sugar and most processed grain, leaned heavily on. Yeah, there's really one thing that's really interesting when you look at melanoma is there's studies that show they know when they cut it out that it spreads, and they say we know but we don't know how else to treat it. And so that's really interesting stuff, and I've seen people work through their melanoma by not removing it. It just depends on how aggressive it is. I just think that's kind of interesting. Thank you so much for the super, Kathy. Any suggestions for hemochromatosis? I believe that is the Celtic gene, right, where you're making too much iron. There's not really anything herbal you can take to do that, but really you have to go give blood on a regular basis. Most people dealing with that obviously have to stay away from high vitamin C intake and then giving blood. And if you don't bleed monthly, if you're not a woman who has a period, I would give blood twice a month. Right? If you are still having your period, once a month is usually enough to keep your iron stores in check. But most people have to do it, twice a month. It just depends. It just depends on where you're in your cycle or if you bleed or not. I wish there was something more that could be done for it, but it's a genetic mutation, unless I got it completely wrong. Okay, so I've been jabbering for 40 minutes. I'm going to jump off here. Thank you so much for your support. If I missed your question, I'm sorry. I'm a human. I have limitations. I do have another Q&A coming up on Sunday. It's for members only. And if you do want to support my capacity to be a real human, teach freely, roof over my head, tea in my pot, all that kind of stuff, consider becoming a member. You literally just throw me a couple bucks a month. You get access to the members only Q&As on Sundays. You get early access to videos as I'm able to upload them. If you can't afford to become a member, don't even worry about it. I still have my Friday Q&As that are open for everybody. I release the videos every week. This one didn't even get a time wait because YouTube messed up, so there's a new video there to watch. You can also check out my shop. I make something for everybody. I've got books, capsules, you name it. You can probably find something to support you. You can use the one-time code TEATIME, TEATIME, to save 10% off anything you like to call home from the shop. If you can't do that, or even if you can, it's really impactful. It's so supportive. If you're mindful to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. Sharing is super important, not just for this video, but any video you ever watch of mine. If you just hit the share button, post it to your Facebook or wherever, it's super helpful. It helps me grow. It helps the algorithm think that I'm worthwhile. It helps people realize that they are capable of taking their health back into their own hands. So thank you so much, folks, and I'll see members this Sunday. Bye.